Here is a question that the CBC should really be asking. Did we pick the right guy to be our Prime Minister? Hey Canada, it's Earl. Remember when the whole country was basically done with Justin Trudeau? We couldn't afford anything anymore. Groceries were skyrocketing, rent was out of control, gas was through the roof, and heating bills in the winter felt like a second mortgage. People were lining up at food banks in record numbers. Young families were giving up on ever owning a home. Seniors were choosing between buying food and paying for their prescriptions. And what did Trudeau do? He lectured us about climate justice, kept raising the carbon tax, and told us it was all our fault for not sacrificing enough. We were furious. Polls showed the majority of Canadians wanted him gone. We were sick of the scandals, the deficits, the massive immigration numbers that made housing even worse, the foreign interference that nobody seemed to care about, and the feeling that Ottawa was completely disconnected from what real people were going through every single day at the grocery store and the gas pump. That was the mood. We were done. Now, look where we are under Mark Carney. It's actually worse. Let me give you some real numbers so you can feel this the same way I do when I look at my own receipts. Back in the last years of Trudeau, a dozen eggs cost around $4.50 to $5.50 in most places. Today, $6.50 to $7.50, and that's on a good week. A loaf of bread that used to be $2.50 is now $3.80 or more. A liter of milk that was $2.20 is pushing $3. Ground beef that was $8-9 kilo is now $12.14. Gas at the pump? We were complaining when it hit $1.60 a liter under Trudeau. Now it's regularly $1.80 to $2.10, and they're still blaming global events, while quietly jacking up the industrial carbon tax another 16% this week. Rent? A one-bedroom apartment in most mid-sized cities that was already painful at $1,800 under Trudeau is now $2,200–$2,500. Heating your house in winter? Many families are paying $400 to $600 a month more than they were 3 years ago. And don't even get me started on groceries for a family of four. The weekly bill that used to be $180 to $220 is now $280 to $350 on the low end. We were told Carney was going to fix this, the adult in the room, the guy who understood the economy. Instead, he gave himself and his ministers raises, pushed through Bill C-15 that lets ministers exempt their friends from conflict of interest rules, announced $3.8 billion to lock up more land under 30 by 30 while families can't afford rent, and sent his finance minister to China to build partnerships while we're still struggling at home. The carbon tax keeps going up. The cost of everything keeps going up. Businesses are still leaving or shutting down because they can't compete with countries that don't punish their own industry like we do. Rural communities are watching land get taken off the table for development. And the cost of living crisis that made us hate Trudeau, it didn't get better, it got deeper. So here's the question I want every Canadian to ask themselves tonight. Why is Mark Carney still in power? We were fed up with Trudeau for exactly the same reasons we're suffering now, except the numbers are higher and the excuses are the same. The deficits are still massive. The carbon tax is still climbing. The insiders are still getting richer. And the average family is still choosing between groceries and the gas tank. Where is the outrage? Why are people in the streets demanding answers the way they were in the last years of Trudeau? Why are we quietly accepting this like it's normal? I'm Earl. I'm just a regular Canadian who remembers how mad we all were when Trudeau was in charge. And I'm telling you straight, what we have now under Carney isn't better. It's the same problems with better suits and smoother talking points. If you're struggling to buy bread, fill your tank, or keep the lights on, you're not imagining it. This is real. And it's getting worse, not better. Call your MP, talk to your neighbors, share what you're actually paying at the store. Because if we don't start demanding better, they're going to keep telling us this is the best it's ever been while we're all quietly going broke. I'm tired of it. I hope you are too. Thanks for listening. Stay awake.